The Blues get a big win versus the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night, but we also lose Philip Broberg for potentially a long period of time. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday episode of Arch City Sports. I'm your host, AJ Nance. Today, we have to obviously cover the Blues win versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, but also today is a very exciting day because it is the beginning of the college basketball season. It's the beginning of the high school basketball season when it comes to practices and workouts. But college basketball is starting today. There's over 300 Division I schools that play on this Monday afternoon and evening. And that one of those schools includes St. Louis University. And they play against Santa Clara on a neutral court this afternoon at 2 p.m. And I cannot wait to cover them throughout the season because this might be the best, on paper, the best SLU team we've seen since 2015, 2016. Before we get into all of that, though, I guess 2020 was also a very good year with Hashan French and Jordan Goodwin and that crew. But yeah, before we get into all the SLU talk today, we have to cover what the Blues did on Saturday night, but also the guy that they potentially lost for a long period of time. The Blues faced the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night with a 4-2 win. What was one of the big topics that we discussed after the Reaction Podcast loss versus the Senators a couple nights ago? That was Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich, two guys that we need to do a bulk of scoring with Robert Thomas out. We're on a goalless streak. And so when were they going to get out of that? And they actually got out of that on the same exact night, and that was Saturday night. Pavel Buchnevich with a goal, Jordan Kyrou with a goal, but also a sneaky guy that's going to be on that fourth line always. And it kind of goes under the radar. And he's not a superstar. He's not a star. He's just a scrappy guy that's honestly in and out of the lineup, in my opinion, way too much. That's Nathan Walker. Nathan Walker does exactly what you asked for him, brings a little edge on that fourth line. But he was out of the lineup for 4 or 5 straight games. He comes back into the lineup against Philly, scores our lone goal in that one. And this one has an assist. He's +1 on the ice. We have enough scoring here, depth scoring, if they all produce, that we can make up for the Robert Thomas loss, but we can do enough scoring to hang in some games. This is a decent Toronto Maple Leafs team, and I know they're 6-5-1. They lost last night, so I believe they're now 6-6-1 against the Wild. They lost, but this is a team. Maybe it's not as deep of a team as they've been in past years. But this is a team that still's rolling out William Nylander, an older John Tavares, but Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews. This is an elite top-end group, and we held them 2 goals. Now, Jordan Binnington was 35 for 37 in net, which obviously helped. And I'm going to get to the player of the game in a second. Bender's obviously up there as well, but back with the depth scoring, this is a prime example. Obviously, you have Kyrou and Buchnevich chip in, and you're going to need that a lot more than if they don't this year. If they chip in, we're going to be in a much better spot than if they don't. But you have Nathan Walker with an assist. There wasn't a whole lot of depth scoring in this one, but Ryan Suter, who's popped up on that top line with Colton Parayko with 2 assists. And I just mentioned the player of the game, Colton Parayko. What a game. Maybe one of the best games of his career. +3 on the ice, 3 block shots, 2 goals, and 1 assist. Colton Parayko now has 3 goals in the first 12 games of the season, which is a really good sign to see. One of the veteran guys on the team. I mean, we have a good mixture of young and old when you talk about the young guys as of Bolduc and Kyrou and Neighbors. But then you have the older guys, Shen, Parayko. Obviously, Ryan Suter's been around the game for a long time. But what a game from Colton Parayko. He's looking very good defensively, long, athletic, dominant at times. And then obviously in this one, dominant offensively, which several years ago you would have never said this could ever happen from Colton Parayko. So 2 goals, 1 assist. He's really taking on a bigger role now. 3 goals on the year already for number 55, Colton Parayko. But a big 4-2 win after a couple rough losses. We didn't even recap that Philly Flyers game, which was a really tough loss. We tie it late with Nathan Walker and on a rebound attempt there, and then 4 minutes later, whatever it was, 3 minutes left in the game, Philly gets a goal, and Benner, who performed very well that night, we ended up with the loss. So big bounce back win versus Toronto. The Blues are off until Tuesday. We're on Tuesday. Let me pull it up here. On Tuesday, the St. Louis Blues are, because we're off here on Monday, should be way faster to pull this up. The Blues are at home versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then on Thursday at home versus the Utah Hockey Club. So we get to see Utah for the first time in their existence here in St. Louis. So back at it on Tuesday against a Lightning team that's not as dominant as they were in past years. Still a team to be reckoned with, though. They have enough star power to win hockey games. And we're going to need to bring, just like we did against Toronto, everybody's hands on deck. You're going to have games where Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich lead you, but they're going to be games where they don't. And so that's where the depth scoring really comes through. Matthew Joseph, hopefully getting back into the lineup. Oscar Sundqvist is back in. He's going to chip in a little bit, but you're going to need guys like Braden Shen and Alexander Texier and those type of guys to contribute with scoring more than we would have asked if Robert Thomas was in the lineup. The biggest loss from this game, though, was Philip Broberg. Philip Broberg, I'm trying to remember who collapsed on his leg there. I believe it was Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner along the boards, kind of tumbled, fell right on Philip Broberg's leg. He limped off the ice. The boys were tapping the boards with their sticks, kind of giving him some support as he left the ice. And that was potentially, now hear me out, potentially just about as big a blow as losing Robert Thomas, depending on how long it is. I've heard MCL sprains from some people. That means more of a 3 to 6 week time frame. We don't have the full time frame yet. And then I've also heard, obviously, if he tore anything, the dude's out for the year. Philip Broberg, you can make a case, has been the best player on the St. Louis Blues this year. I believe he's a plus. I can pull up the actual numbers here. I believe he's over +5, I believe. What he's been offensively and defensively has been huge for us. He's a +6 on the ice, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. Again, only 23 years old. He won't be 24 until next offseason, next June. Philip Broberg, I made a whole video about it. In my opinion, one of the most dynamic, short time frame here, but sample size, but one of the most dynamic Blues defensemen we've seen in the last 20 years. Now, if Colton Parayko continues to play like he did the other night, that's a very dynamic defenseman we have. And then obviously they don't play on the same pairing, but those two guys on either pairing one, obviously with Parayko and Suter right now, and then they were doing Broberg with Falk on the second pair. You have two horses right now with Broberg and Parayko, and they've both been playing really good hockey. So to see a guy like Philip Broberg go down, not even for us, how awful that hurts for us. That's a really big blow for him, who's having a chance to really break out and start his own career. He was kind of going behind the, kind of behind obviously McDavid and Draisaitl and the star power they had over there, and was kind of just slowly starting to make a name for himself last year. Again, very early in his career. This was his year to kind of not have his own team, but have a huge role in the top two pairing where there's not a whole lot of star power, and he could potentially become one of the best players in the St. Louis Blues. And in the first 12 games, he was I'm going to say it, he's been our best player. He's been our best player. Best plus minus, top 3 in points, 2 goals from the defensive side, 7 assists. He's been great defensively, long, athletic. Offensively, can bring it up the ice by himself. Very impressive defenseman. And I really hope it's just a tweak or a sprain and he's out a couple weeks. So hopefully we do not have to have Philip Broberg miss a lot of time, because without Philip Broberg and Robert Thomas, I'm the ultimate optimist. But without those two guys, your two best players, I don't know. It'll be very difficult. You're going to have a lot of guys step up even more, especially on the defensive side. Obviously, Parayko stepped up the other night, but you're going to need more scoring out of Justin Falk. You're going to need If Scott Perunovich is inserted into the lineup, you're going to need him to be more dynamic and explosive. So I don't know. Thoughts and prayers with Philip Broberg and that training staff, because the Blues need him very badly. But like I said, the Blues are back in action on Tuesday. So tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. at home, we have the next 4 games at home throughout this whole next week. So if you're able to go see the St. Louis Blues play, find a way. There's going to be some good games. Have the Lightning in town, who are 7-5. Then on Thursday, the Utah Hockey Club at 5-4-3. They've been scrappy so far after a very good start. The Washington Capitals on Saturday night, they are 8-3 on the year, a very good start for them. And then the Boston Bruins next Tuesday night, a rematch of the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals. They are 6-1. It's not the same Boston Bruins team that they're rolling out, but they still have a lot of star power. Brad Marchand can still get it done. Pasternak can still get it done. McAvoy, obviously. So 4 really big games for the Blues. I'm not going to say anything crazy like makes or breaks their season in these next 4 games, but realistically looking at it, I think we can beat the Lightning. I think we will beat the Utah Hockey Club, and then I think we beat Boston. Washington's the one. They're playing really solid hockey right now. I think we lose that one. I could see us losing to the Lightning realistically, and I could see us in these next 4 games at home. I'm going to say we go 2-2. Our goal should be 3-1 without a doubt, though. Not going to be easy. This is a just above 500 Lightning team and 500 Boston Bruins team, but we all know they have a lot more talent than a 500 team, so that's not going to be easy whatsoever. Let's transition into SLU basketball, our first time discussing the SLU Billikens this year, and I am very excited. As a basketball coach, a basketball trainer, this is what I live for, is basketball, and to have a SLU team that, in my opinion, on November 4th, when we start the season for Santa Clara today at 2 o'clock on YouTube, if you're able to watch, I believe this team has Sweet 16 potential. We got 4, I believe it was 6 votes or 9 votes, 6 or 9, I believe, to get into the top 25 to start the year preseason rankings. And I will take that. I will 100% take that. Now, do I believe with I don't know, 5 games under our belt that this is a top 25 team in the country? Without a doubt. Now, they could absolutely come out and lay an egg versus Santa Clara today. A West Coast Conference team that obviously plays Gonzaga every year and plays teams like San Francisco and St. Mary's, who are usually solid. St. Mary's made a couple NCAA tournament appearances these last couple of years. San Francisco's made 1 or 2 the last couple of years. So they play some decent teams throughout the year. They're going to be prepared, even though it's game 1 of the year. They're going to be prepared. It's different than if we play Quinnipiac, who I think we play in a couple of weeks here. So I'm not going to say it's a super hard matchup for us. I think we win this one pretty easily, 10-plus points. But if we come out flat, Santa Clara is going to be ready to rock and roll. So looking at kind of what the rotation looks like for people that are not familiar with this new squad, it's a whole new system. Josh Schertz is coming in from Indiana State. Travis Ford out after the last, I believe it was 6 or 7 years here in St. Louis. Josh Schertz comes in after a really good year last year where they just missed out on the NCAA tournament. They made the NIT, and I believe they made it all the way to the finals in that NIT. If they didn't make it to the finals, they were the 1 seed. But he brings over some guys with him. His 2 best players, Isaiah Swope, a 5'10 guard, very explosive. He's going to be one of the most, and I use this term a lot with the Blues, but dynamic. Isaiah Swope's going to be one of the most dynamic guards SLU has had probably since Yuri Collins, but I think he's even more explosive and way more offensively gifted when it comes to scoring the ball than Yuri. I'm thinking like a Jordair Jet back in the 2015, 2016 years. Isaiah Swope can go get a bucket. There's a couple games last year where he shot over 10 threes in a game. He's not afraid to shoot the ball from wherever. He takes tough shots, but he's a tough shot maker. And he's going to be a guy that's super tough and gritty. And I know he's only 5'10", so it doesn't really match the defensive identity we want to roll out there. But Isaiah Swope's going to play a big role in this team. And in my opinion, will be the second leading scorer on our squad this year. Along with that, Josh Schertz and Isaiah Swope bring a top 25 preseason Naismith Award candidate, and that's Robbie Avila. He's the talk of the town, the 6'10", 240-pound Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Robbie Avila. He looks and plays a lot like Nikola Jokic, and I know that's a huge compliment and a huge comparison, but this guy can roll out and get you on any given night 20, 12, and 6 assists. He's extremely talented, extremely gifted, and I think he's going to win Atlantic 10 Player of the Year. I don't know how far he'll get into that Naismith Player of the Year award watch, but he's a top 25 candidate coming into the season. That has to say something about his ability, but also when's the last time SLU has had a guy like that? This is a star. This is a superstar in college basketball. Now, will his game translate to the NBA? I don't know. He's only a junior. Realistically, hopefully, we have 2 years of Robbie here. I think he's about as good of a college player as you can possibly get. Again, I don't know how it translates to the NBA. I think his passing ability and his ability to stretch the floor from three has a definite role in the NBA, but I'm not looking there yet. If anybody on this roster is making the NBA, obviously it's him. But when we're just talking about this year and potentially next year, Robbie Avila is a top, like the prediction says, preseason rankings say, he's a top 25 player in the country. He's a top 3 big man in the country. And I'm saying that. His ability to do everything on the court. Defensively, it's a little bit slower on his feet, but it's a big guy. That any type of big that we're facing, I feel good with him bodying down low. Elite rebounder, elite scorer, amazing passer. Robbie Avila is going to be must-watch TV this year and a huge addition for the SLU Billikens. You have Kalu Anya, who's coming from Brown. He averaged 9 points per game at Brown last year, a forward, 6'8", 225 pounds, long, athletic. Then you have Kellen Thames returning, 6'6", long, athletic guard / forward there. AJ Casey, a 6'9" transfer from Miami. Then you have deeper in the rotation, Josiah Dotzler from Creighton, who I think will be in the mix a little bit, but I think there's some names above him. The rotation right now, and I didn't even mention Kobe Johnson, who we got from West Virginia, who was starting over there. The rotation for me looks like this. You have a couple options. When we want a more offensive lineup, I believe Josh Schertz and his staff will roll out Isaiah Swope, Gary Hughes, Gibson Jimerson, Kalu Anya, and Robbie Avila. I said Gary Hughes. I meant Larry Hughes. Isaiah Swope, Larry Hughes, Gibson Jimerson, Kalu Anya, and Robbie Avila, or AJ Casey instead of Kalu Anya. Those are the kind of the options. I'm trying to base this also off the exhibition that we had versus Maryville. Kellen Thames led our team in scoring that night with 17. I think he's obviously in the mix. If you want to run a more, I guess your small lineup, you could go Isaiah Swope at point guard, obviously, Larry Hughes, Gibson Jimerson, Kellen Thames at 6'6" as your power forward, and then Robbie Avila. I think also defensively, you could roll out, if you want a bigger lineup, Isaiah Swope. Then you can go Gibson Jimerson at the 2 guard, Kellen Thames as the 3 as your 6'6" long athletic wing defender. Then AJ Casey at 6'9", or Kalu Anya at 6'8", and then Robbie Avila. Kobe Johnson is obviously going to be in the mix. He's going to get, I think, pretty decent minutes right from the jump, especially defensively. This guy can really get after it. He's a 6'4" guard. He can play the point guard or the shooting guard position. Obviously, Kellen Thames is going to be in the rotation. AJ Casey, Kalu Anya, and then Max Picard might get some minutes to kind of spell Robbie Avila just a little bit. I think Max Picard could be in that role. And then obviously, like I mentioned, the other 2 guys kind of on the outside right now, but I could see working their way in is Josiah Dotzler from Creighton, a 6'3" guard. And then the freshman Amari McCautry, a 3-star, 6'5" guard. I believe he's from the Milwaukee area. Those 2 guys, I think, are on the outside, but could work their way in. So my opinion is going to be a 9-man rotation. Isaiah Swope, and no order here. Isaiah Swope, Larry Hughes, Gibson Jimerson, Kalu Anya, Robbie Avila, Kobe Johnson, Kellen Thames, AJ Casey, and Max Picard, spelling Robbie Avila some minutes he's 6'11". He's a big boy. Thinner in frame, 200 pounds in comparison to like a Robbie Avila who's 240. But then that 10th and 11th man, Josiah Dotzler and Amari McCautry, I think, are the other two guys that could get some playing time. We have options, though. We could score the ball now. Obviously, Gibson Jimerson is getting major, like all around the country, looks as one of the most elite three-point shooters in the country. Isaiah Swope, an elite guard. Larry Hughes can really fill it up. But then you have the big guys that can really produce down low. AJ Casey, Robbie Avila obviously can do it all. And then Kelu Anya, tough, physical. Kobe Johnson, tough, physical guard that was playing under Coach Huggins over there in West Virginia. Josiah Dotzler and Mari McCautry are younger, more youthful look. But we have options to play pretty much any play style you want. I want to see how we do defensively at the guard position. I think if we run into a really, really athletic, strong point guard, and we'll cover a lot of the pregame matchups throughout the year in the Atlantic 10 and non-conference, but we play in a really athletic guard that's maybe a little bigger. It might be tough for Isaiah Swope. He's the one defensively that I could see causing some issues. Kobe Johnson can fill right in and help out defensively, though. It's a big year for Larry Hughes Jr. It's a very big year for him, obviously. Larry Hughes the second, huge year for him. Kind of trying to have him take another step forward. Gibson Jimerson, obviously, like I said, huge talks about him, but we can score the ball, I think, about with anybody, especially if we're getting production from Larry Hughes, like I said. And then I think defensively, we can run big against teams with Kelu Anya and AJ Casey, Robbie Avila. We can push the pace if we need to with Isaiah Swope. And obviously, like I said, Hughes and Kobe Johnson. We can run through Robbie Avila through a lot of actions at the top of the key, kind of that center hub that a lot of teams do it now. The Denver Nuggets do it, obviously, with Jokic, but off the bench, Mason Plumlee for the Suns does it. There's a lot of other centers that obviously do it too. Yusuf Nurkic in Phoenix also does it. They run a lot through that center movement there. Jakob Poeltl in Toronto, as a Raptors fan, obviously they run a lot through him. So I think Robbie could rack up the assists this year. I think a lot of downhill actions with Larry Hughes and Gibson Jimerson is going to be really tough to guard. And Isaiah Swope can always late shot clock go get you a bucket. So I have a lot of belief in this team. And like I said, I'm the ultimate optimist, but this team gets me very excited every Saturday and some weeknights to watch SLU basketball. Like I said, it starts today at 2 p.m. versus the Santa Clara squad out of the West Coast Conference. It's on YouTube, 2 p.m., so make sure to go check that out. The biggest wild card for the SLU Billikens this year is Larry Hughes, in my opinion. You can make a case for Kelu Anya or AJ Casey, but I think Larry Hughes is the biggest wild card this year. If he's playing at a very high level, this is the ceiling for the SLU Billikens is a Elite 8 run. I think we're a Sweet 16 team. I think this has Elite 8 potential, and I'm very excited to see what Josh Schertz and his coaching staff has in store for us this year with the SLU Billikens squad. That's going to wrap it up for the Monday episode of Arch City Sports. Everybody, thank you for listening and viewing. Make sure to go like and subscribe to the podcast if you're listening and watching over there on YouTube. Follow and rate the podcast if you're listening and watching on Spotify or Amazon Music. And, of course, go follow us on all social media at Arch City Sports on Instagram, TikTok, and X. I will see you guys on Tuesday night, tomorrow night, or early Wednesday morning for a recap of the SLU Billikens game, but also the St. Louis Blues game versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. So a couple of reaction podcasts will be out before. Actually, the SLU reaction will be out tomorrow morning. The Blues reaction will either be out late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning, and then we'll have our normal episode on Friday. And a couple of reaction podcasts for the Blues, obviously after their Thursday game versus Utah as well. So make sure to, like I said, go like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow and rate the podcast on Spotify or Apple Music, and of course, Amazon Music. And of course, go watch SLU play at 2 p.m. I will see you guys in the reaction pod tomorrow morning. Thanks, guys.